Hey guys, so I figured it made more sense for me to do a video at the end of every month reviewing the books I've read in that month rather than the books that I've acquired. Otherwise it's just like 5 minutes of me going, I haven't read this but it looks pretty good, over and over. So without further ado, these are the books that I've read in January. First book of the year was Lumberjanes by Noelle Stevenson, and I literally do not know what took me so long to read this. It's amazing. I'm not currently buying anything for myself because it's my birthday in 2 weeks, but once I'm sure that a friend hasn't bought me it or anything, I am absolutely getting volume 2 because I need it in my life. Lumberjanes is basically about a group of Girl Scouts who are just trying to get their scout badges and enjoy themselves and have a good summer, but they keep getting sucked into these crazy adventures with monsters along the way. It's a lot of fun. I love Noelle Stevenson's art style so much, and all of the characters are really well-rounded and developed and diverse, and it's just really awesome reading about more lady friendships. So yes, more of that please. And I've already started gathering things to cosplay April at LFCC. Next I read The Blood of Olympus by Riordan, which is the last in the Heroes of Olympus series. Now, I have owned this book since the day it came out, but I have been putting off reading it for so long because I just wasn't ready for the series to end. The Percy Jackson series has been in my life since little 11-year-old Lucy first picked up The Lightning Thief in the school library. And it's just such an amazing series, I wasn't ready for it to be over. But I finally read it and oh god, I loved it so much my heart hurts. It was everything I wanted in an ending to that series. Honestly, I haven't been that happy finishing a series in a long time. If you haven't read the Percy Jackson books, or if you read the first series and then were a little bit meh about the Heroes of Olympus follow-up, read them all right now. If you like adventure and funny writing and Greek mythology, then you will love this series. And if you too are a fellow Percy Jackson nerd, hit me up, because I have been dying for someone to let me talk about how much I love Nico D'Angelo for hours on end. But all of my friends know me too well to let me do that. I'm just so happy about Nico's ending. Like, my baby is finally finding his place in the world. I get very emotional about Nico D'Angelo, guys. It's a thing. Next, I read the Crewel series by Gennifer Albin, which is Crewel, Altered, and Unraveled. As you can tell from the cover redesign, I owned the first one for ages before getting the next two. I did actually read the first one like a year ago and I enjoyed it, so I bought the next two, but then things happened and I never got round to reading them. But I finally did so, and I reread the first one because it had been so long, and it's a pretty good trilogy. I think it would have been better had I not already read like 500 dystopian YA trilogies, because there are a fair few similarities and it can get a little bit tropey at times. It dips a little bit in the middle, but the third book was way better than I was expecting. It's a pretty bold ending and I enjoyed it a lot. Basically, the premise of the series is that they live in this world called Aris, which is very heavily segregated by gender and plays a lot on gender stereotypes. And Aris is maintained and controlled by spinsters who have the ability to see and manipulate the weave of Aris, which is basically the fabric of reality. Everything is made up of strands of the weave, so people, buildings, food, everything. Only some girls have the ability to see and work with the weave, and they're tested at 16, and if they are found to have the talent, they are brought to a Coventry to be trained as a spinster. They're taken from their families and promised luxury and parties and everything they could ever want except a family, because spinsters aren't allowed to marry. Except, of course, it's a dystopian, so nothing is as it seems and everything is corrupt as heck, as the protagonist Adelis finds out when she is taken to be a spinster. I would definitely recommend this trilogy, especially if you're into YA dystopian. But trying to stay as spoiler-free as possible, one thing that really stands out to me with this series is the timeline. It's not your typical dystopian future in that Aris began as a way to avoid the damage from World War II. So the whole gender roles and stereotyping and everything makes a lot more sense when you realise it's because their society was developed in the 40s and 50s and hasn't really moved on from that point in any way except technology. I don't know, if you're a little oversaturated with dystopians, then fair, but if not, you should definitely give Crewel a try. Finally, I read the Welcome to Night Vale novel. I've been a huge fan of the podcast for years, and this book is basically everything I love about the podcast in written form. It was really cool getting to see a little more in-depth into Night Vale and follow it from a perspective other than Cecil's. Though it kind of makes me wish I hadn't listened to the podcast, if only to experience reading the book with absolutely zero context. If you were a person who has never listened to or interacted with the Welcome to Night Vale podcast in any way, read the book and let me know what you think. Like, I'm used to this level of bizarre from Night Vale, so it must be an interesting experience to go into the book without all of that backstory. Night Vale is kind of impossible to explain, but if you aren't already, you should listen to the podcast. And read the book. All hail the Glow Cloud. That's it for books read by me this month, and I'm actually pretty proud of myself. I expect zero chance of me keeping up that reading pace through February, as I have a lot of editing and writing I need to get done. But hopefully I'll clear my to-read pile of a lot of graphic novels during that. Subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my future reading adventures, and I will see you next time. Bye! Hey guys, now I already have all my 2016 cosplays planned out and partly started. While I was making that list, I ended up thinking a lot about the cosplays that are on my to-do list, but I haven't made any move to start yet.